Hi, so in the latest Forbes interview with a member of the World of Warcraft development team, it's been suggested that World of Warcraft has been an essentially misogynistic, especially sexist endeavour, but it's not any longer. But was there really any sexism in WoW? Certainly of the kind they're talking about in this article. That's what I want to explore now. So what has been noted in the article, it ostensibly takes the form of an interview, but in actual fact, reading the article, there's very little about the interview itself. It's much more the thoughts of the author. Okay, that's fine. So the thoughts of the author are effectively that in-game cinematics, leading characters in the Warcraft story have effectively been largely male-dominated. And certainly, I think if you just do a numbers exercise, you would definitely see that. World of Warcraft, like a lot of fantasy series, is based very much on, I suppose, ultimately you go back and the main inspiration is Tolkien. I know, for example, that with the Lord of the Rings films, a lot of people poured scorn on the fact there was not very many leading female characters into it. But of course, the way that developed is Tolkien was writing a mythology from the past, and in the past it was largely male-dominated, but it has to be borne in mind that there were female characters into it. They were massively outnumbered, but there were, and every single one of them, every single one, was a powerful character. There was no such thing as a weak female character in any of Tolkien's writings, and there are a number of female characters. They are just heavily outnumbered by the male characters. But there are weak male characters. So was Tolkien really sexist? I would argue not. World of Warcraft and lots of games that have come from it, like the big advantage of fantasy role-playing games from the sexism point of view is that in terms of your characters, there are none. Because in any of these games, there's never a situation where a female character is treated any differently to a male character. They're both as strong, they're both as intelligent, all the rest of it. In fact, you choose your gender and it has basically zero effect on your character. The same is true in World of Warcraft, of course. So in terms of the story characters, the NPC, so what they say in this one is, so they've gone from the point of view of, oh, it's all male dominated, to, it says, in the space of 6 months, 3 leading ladies have taken the spotlight. Jaina Proudmoore, the Alliance Mage, who will act as the final boss of the upcoming Battle of Dazalor raid dungeon. Hadn't they changed the name of that? No, they hadn't. No, that's what it's changed to. Sylvanas, the undead war chief of the Horde, and Queen Ashara, leader of the Serpentine Naga and Big Bad in the Shadows. Each got her own Warbringer short this summer leading up to the launch of the expansion. Now, Blizzard, what they said in response to that, it wasn't really planned, it's just how it naturally worked out. And I think, you know, I definitely agree with that, because all of those characters have been major characters for a long time. They haven't been built up for BFA. They've always been there, and they've always been major characters. Every single one of those characters was a major character before World of Warcraft ever came into being. Yes, sure, Queen Ashara has always very much been in the shadows. She's never been used directly, but she's always been there looming, and we all knew that she was basically the boss. All of them, in their own ways, are bosses of their respective factions. Now, you know, Jaina, of course, the Mages of Dalaran for a very long time there. Of course, she threw a hissy fit in Legion, but she's back now. Sylvanas has always been the boss of the Forsaken, and a force to be reckoned with even before she became War Chief, and of course Queen Ashara, boss of the Naga under the water, all the rest of it. And then it says in-game cinematics have skewed heavily towards these characters, as well as leaders such as Jana's Mother, Catherine Proudmoore, Talanji, Princess of the Zandalari Troll Empire, Talia, the daughter of Bolvar Fordragon, and the lead character in a series of Alliance Zone quests. The priestess Yasma, I think you're clutching at straws a little bit there. I don't know that Yasma's that big a character in it. But if we take a look at these, now, it could be argued that the inclusion of Jana's Mother, Catherine Proudmoore, and I think what is ultimately being talked about here is, if you think about it, most of the characters driving the narrative are actually female in BFA. Now, Blizzard say this is not a conscious decision. It could be. Now, where they may have a point, Because I thought this is the only... See, the reason why I don't really believe there's an agenda behind this, and I don't believe World of Warcraft, except maybe in one regard, which I'll come to, has ever been sexist. I don't believe that of any fantasy game I've played. Simply, as I say, because female and male characters are always basically on an equal footing. You just may well have more male characters than female characters in it in terms of the story. But in terms of what you play, you can choose either. But one thing that did get me thinking, as the BFA story was started to be released, is Janas Mother, Catherine Proudmoore. Because I was under the impression, I could be wrong on this actually, but I was under the impression that when Janas' father died, that leadership of Kulturas went to her brother. And that being and I'm pretty sure that was the case at Warcraft 2. Well, Warcraft 3, really, I should say. Now, that being the case, if they've decided to change it so that Catherine Proudmoore took over, then you could argue that that's a deliberate attempt to deliberately create more strong female characters. Or it may be that it was never really stated, maybe assumed, or maybe just assumed on my part, and that it'd never really been dealt with, and now they had, and they've just gone, well, you know, Janas' mother's still around, why shouldn't she just take over? In which case, there isn't anything to answer for there. And when it comes to everything else, because I think if World of Warcraft had ever moved from male-dominated, you know, in a very misogynistic way, to female-dominated in BFA, I think more people would have noticed. So I think what someone's probably trying to do is read a little bit too much into it from that point of view. Now, there is one area in which World of Warcraft, you could argue, has been a bit sexist, in the same way that many other fantasy games are, but that doesn't always make it right. In that, if you look at male and female characters, particularly player characters, that's where it's easiest to look. So, you know, you can put on some armour on a male character. It's most noticeable, of course, on humans, but, you know, on many other races as well. And, you know, you look like you're well decked out in really super strong armour, looking very heroic. And then you can put that same armour on a female character, and all of a sudden you've never seen so much flesh exposed in what's supposed to be full plate male. And it does pander to that side of it. You know, the female characters, the female player characters, when you've got armour on, it always has very figure-hugging, not necessarily practical armour, whereas the male is a lot more cover-up. You know, if you could imagine taking some of this armour on a female character and put it on a male character, if it was the same, it would look very odd indeed. So you can argue it panders to that side of it, panders to those teenage boys' ideals of what male and female heroes would look like. That, you could argue, is a little bit sexism, and that hasn't gone away in BFA. That is still very much there. But in other respects, in terms of the character narrative, as I say, I don't believe so. Because apart from anything else, Ashara, Jaina, and Sylvanas have not risen to greater prominence. They were always very prominent whenever they were involved in any storylines, and they've been involved in many storylines for the longest time. In fact, I recently said, when we're talking about what's going to happen with Sylvanas, that they won't kill her off, because I think she's too big a character. I think she's the biggest character in World of Warcraft. I think for a very long time, Sylvanas has been the biggest character in World of Warcraft. You can't get much more dominant than that, because she is the only character that all the way from Warcraft 3, all the way through every single expansion, the original as well, of World of Warcraft, she's the only character that has been prominent in every single one. Other characters have come and gone. Some have just come and then gone left. She has always been there, and she's always been a major player. Jaina, whenever she's been involved, has always been a major player. Because I would say that World of Warcraft is, again, it's very much like Tolkien in that where female characters are used, and there are many, many more female characters in World of Warcraft than there were in Tolkien's works, of course. They're always strong characters. I cannot really think of a weak female character in the Warcraft story. I can think of both weak and strong male characters. So it could be argued as well that there's always been a conscious effort never to present a weak female character and be accused of misogynism, because whenever they're there, they're strong. Whether good or bad, villain or hero, they've always been strong. Now, if anyone can correct me, then put that in the comments below. So, I mean, that's what I would say on that one. I just thought it was a very, very strange one. Like, I read the Forbes articles on a number of different subjects. Big fan of Forbes. But in particular, of course, World of Warcraft ones. I always read those. And they're always fascinating. And I don't want to sort of get on the thing, because I know people are going to look at me, oh, well, white male, of course, you know, anyone plays the sexism card, you're going to jump on it. But I have to say, I mean, I look at this, and it's very different to the normal Forbes interviews in that very little of it has anything to do with the person they were interviewing. Very, very few quotes, very little said. It's really a narrative derived by the author. But let me know what you think. Particularly if you are a female gamer, what have you thought about World of Warcraft? And put your comments down below, please. I hope you enjoyed this little discussion. If you did, don't forget to click the like button and subscribe for further content. Do let me know what you think down below. And until next time, I'll see you later.